Okay, this is the daytime tour of my Halloween Asylum this year. In Las Vegas, Nevada. Has been a little windy as of late, but luckily no permanent damage has ensued from it. Hopefully this sign will kind of keep some of the liability off of me, as there is definitely scenery and props that are offensive. So walking up the driveway here, the first thing we're actually going to see is the swinging zombie girl. She is a 2009 model. I've had her for 13 years. Luckily, she still works perfectly. It is a little dark in this corner though, so I do got a little spotlight right there. That's going to shine on her perfectly. It's orange in color, definitely gives a nice eerie effect. It will cast her shadow down here as well as she swings. Then I got this crime scene setup going on over here. It was a good way to utilize the John Doe prop. He will be down, of course, during the display. He's just up right now to kind of keep him out of the way. And he starts breathing and sits up and not really dead. Over here is the entryway for the asylum. Now, I did go a little crazy this year with these aluminum signs. I actually really like them. You'll see several more throughout this display as we continue to go on. Did a lot of this freaky fabric everywhere. I like it because it really, it's going to hit you when you go through it. It gives you an eerie feel. On top of that, it really kind of covers things up. Prevents you from seeing what's inside. So we go through. And now we're into the asylum. You'll see all this writing on the wall everywhere. This is blacklight reactive. I did go crazy with the black lights in here. So that's why I did a lot of blacklight reacting. Do got a lot of these Victorian era pictures sprung throughout. Covering everything with all this black tarp. Definitely took a while. We got Peekaboo Penny here. Kind of eases the start into this one. Nothing too crazy yet. And then we got Evelyn Leach. She was actually just brand new for last year. I just bought her. And then, of course, we got all these bloody tools and stuff hung up. They are all blacklight reactive as well. Chains on the wall. We come into the medical area. And the syringes are definitely a labor of love. You have to fill every single one of them, tie them up, string them down, put them up. But it's an effect I've always enjoyed doing. They're definitely worth it. The syringes do a good job at actually keeping the blood on the inside of them without dripping. And then bloody hospital tools. I did have this gauze fabric, which I actually really kind of like as a backdrop to the convulsing nurse. Plus it also prevents people from trying to go into the house because that part is blocked off. And then we got some live wires here. And then the convulsing nurse herself. She is 2013 and unfortunately does not work anymore. When I moved out here to Las Vegas, she must have got bumped in the move or knocked around or something because she no longer activates. And unfortunately, I have not had any luck finding a new one or even so much as a motor from her or even a used one. So if anyone knows of anyone trying to sell one, I'm definitely interested. This is my first year doing these IV stands. Unfortunately, I could not find any props, so I did have to buy real ones and then kind of blood spatter them and age them and make them look this way. And then the blood is prop blood, of course. But I've always wanted to do IV stands in my asylum, so I'm excited to actually do that as a first time this year. And then making our way into this room here. Got these little nightstands and, of course, the Ouija board. Still works. It's really cool. Even more so than that prop, I actually like this haunted ghost book a lot. The quill pen will write itself on there for anyone who hasn't seen it. And then the main room over here, we'll have the TV, kind of like from Poltergeist. The face will come through it, and it's really cool looking. And then the haunted lamp, a face will pop up after it zaps awake. These coffins I actually had custom made out of pallets, but they were really new looking though. It was like that really bright new wood look that pallets tend to have. So with a simple concoction of steel wool and apple cider vinegar, I was able to completely age them, and now they are really dark and really gray and look like they've been outside for years and years and years, so it's perfect for this kind of storage. And then, of course, we got the Ghost Twins, Double Trouble. And between them is actually a fog machine, which actually comes through really nicely. It fills this area up with fog, but on top of that, also kind of gives them a ghostly feel as there is fog behind them. Above us, there's all sorts of hanging body parts. Definitely put them through chains with the hooks like that. And then I added a bunch more blood to them to kind of make them more real. The painted on blood that it came with just really wasn't selling it. Okay, then we kind of move our way through here. Got more Fake fabric that kind of separates the third and final room. And here there's definitely a lot of, there's a pentagram, upside down crosses. Like I said, everything's religiously, iconically kind of offensive. So hopefully this doesn't bother anybody. But we're going to start with the floating ghost girl. Her sensor is actually really nice to start here because as soon as you walk past her, you actually trigger her and she starts floating. And after she completes, her snap is actually enough to activate the Broken Spine girl. Broken Spine is from 2011 if I remember correctly, and this is the 2011 model. Luckily she still works, so I've had a scare with some of these older animatronics. Sometimes they're not, you never know when they're just going to burn out. These things aren't meant to last for as long as I've been fortunate enough that they have. And then of course we got the Exorcist or Levitating girl, and she also gets triggered by all three of these. So without any step pads or people having to walk in front of the sensors or anything like that, they all just tend to trigger off each other. And these actually also activate the Double Trouble as well, so which will also activate Evelyn Leach. So quite literally everything in here will just kind of feed off of each other. And then we exit with some more freaky fabric. And now we start to move on. The first thing we're going to see here is Lunging Lily. I've had issues with her in the past because her spring is actually bent, but after doing some tweaking and fixing up her spring, she actually works quite nicely now. Got a lot of spotlights and pumpkins. Every single one of these light up and glow for this little individual theme. It's really small, just only takes up a corner, but it's like a pumpkin patch type thing. Did pick up these hay barrels. They're not real, of course. These pumpkins this year I got from Home Depot. They're actually really cool. I like them because they're different from the other ones. They're rotten, old looking. All the other ones are like in immaculate condition, so that's kind of what I liked about these. And then at night, their light on the inside of them is actually alternating red and yellow LEDs, which really gives it kind of a flickering flame effect. And then we have the Straw Man. He is brand new to this year. Really like him. The detail in the face is just absolutely immaculate, especially when he's on and his mouth moves perfectly and his whole body moves too. I mean, they just did a really good job with this one. That is not his original hat. It did blow away in the wind, and I have no idea where it went, but got him a new hat. And then this way to the carnival. But before entering the carnival, we do have the Ring Around the Rosie Ghost kids. These ones are particularly creepy, and I actually would have liked to have had a fog machine on them this year, but I fell shy by one fog machine, and I just did not have enough fog to really kind of give them that ghostly look. But next year I'll definitely be picking up more fog machines and get that going. Here's the entryway. It's this tent looking entryway here for the carnival. Here's some more of those old vintage signs. I did aged and blood spatter them myself, and then we got that one up there. Did have issues with wind this year. My tent definitely kind of took a little bit of a beating, but nothing permanent. It's still standing at least. When we come into the carnival, we got Lucky Bottoms. He is brand new for this year. Very creepy. He's got the claws going on and the black eyes, and he just makes a very maniacal laughter sound. In the back over here, I do have this cool red twisting light. And what that actually does is creates this very circular kind of light across the entire carnival. That is an actual functioning popcorn machine. It does still work, but obviously I'm not going to use it for anything more than just a prop though. I fixed it with one of those flickering lights to make it look like it's barely working. Took a wheel off, kind of buried it, just made it look like it's there for a while. It will be complemented by butter popcorn scented wax melts that will actually make this entire place smell like the carnival basically. He's just a hanging clown, just one more thing to kind of put in here. The backdrop, I really like the way it came out. I think I'm gonna invest in a lot more of it next year, but for this year, this is what I could do. And then here's a thrashing clown. He is also really old. Unfortunately, doesn't work with volume anymore. If I have his volume up even the slightest bit to where it's technically on, you just can't hear it, he will not thrash anymore. But if his volume's off, then he works perfectly fine. His lights will light up, he senses, and he thrashes. So, fortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. We're just going to leave the volume off. I mean, with Lucky Bottoms, being as loud as he is, being a brand new animatronic just right here to the left of him, you probably want to hear the thrashing clown anyway, so it's not a big deal. At least he still works. Up here, we got Harriet Hustle. Now, Harriet, I actually ridiculously liked. She was the whole reason I started a carnival theme because I just had to have her. So I bought her, realized that she doesn't make sense with anything else I had, and then boom, the carnival theme was born. So all this that you see came from her. Or because of her, I should say. This is a little Bluetooth speaker that is actually going to be playing creepy carnival music on a continuous loop in the background. So when you come in here, you got the visuals, you got the sound, and then you also got the smell. So it's really going to touch all the senses, which I actually think is really cool. First time I'm going to be that thorough in the detailing. And then we got Bag of Jokes here. His sensor works really well. So just as you're passing Harriet Hustle and you think you're done with here, you come across him and then he activates, and it's just a nice little touch. I like him. I like the things he says. He has 5 different sayings. And then we got all these flag garlands and then carnival style lights. The garland is also aged and blood spattered. Looks really cool. Actually came that way. I did not have to do that myself. Unlike the entryway tent here, it was brand new looking, brand new white, brand new red. So I actually had to paint coffee grounds on it to stain it yellow and age it, and then shook that off and blood spattered them. Like the way it came out. These LEDs here, very carnival style string lights, and I like the way that the way that I angled these almost creates a tent effect in here. But the lights themselves were actually too bright. It added too much light in here, so I bought a dimmer switch for them and dimmed them down a bit, and now I think they give off the perfect amount of glow. So after we exit the carnival, we head to the back over here where we got the cemetery. And now the cemetery, kind of had to block this off as best I could with spider webs. The nice thing is it does stick to these types of walls very well. The stucco is very nice for this. However, like I said, it has been windy and spider webs just don't do good in the wind, so there's nothing I can do about that. These little lanterns actually have these little flickering flame lights in them. Really cool, very ineffective at actually adding light, but I didn't want to add light to the cemetery anyway. They're just really cool looking. They're super old. I've had them for probably 13 years as well, so and they still working perfectly. Never had to replace the bulbs in those. Went a little heavy with tombstones this year. I almost originally didn't think I was going to use this many tombstones, but you know, there's a lot of yard to cover and there's not a ton of props back here, unfortunately. I don't have a lot of cemetery themed stuff, so I really just had to fill with tombstones. These are some of my favorite. I really like the ones that are the broken stones. They're slanted, barely sticking out of the ground. And plus they're made actually out of the highest quality styrofoam I think I've seen in any of the other tombstones. Here we got the jumping spider. I originally had him so close to the pumpkin guardian because his sensor works really well, so if someone comes anywhere near him, he goes off and triggers him because the pumpkin guardian sensor actually really sucks. However, after adding the banshee seems to be triggering him first and then he's triggering him, so it's kind of having an opposite effect, but they're feeding off of each other and they constantly keep going off, so I will take it. The pumpkin guardian is hooked up with a fog machine. I've had troubles with him in the past where he just continues to twist because his hose is pulling on him, and it's really hard to get him to work properly. I don't think he was designed very well, but after a few tweaks, he is actually just rising up perfectly and back down every single time the way he's supposed to, and the fog is working really well, although I do have too powerful of a fog machine for him. I wish I had a 400 watt, but all of mine are 1,000 watts. Some more tombstones. Here's a Banshee. Her only setting is continuous on, and she can be very loud because she's a Wailing Banshee. She's supposed to be. So I actually only have her speaker turned up halfway, and yet she's still one of the loudest things out here. But it does trigger the other animatronics, so we're okay with it. Got dual low-laying fog machines over here. Once I put the ice in there, we want to cover the entire ground because this year I did do these flat green lasers, kind of like you see in bayou type haunted houses, where it really creates that swampy effect. The lasers are pointed nice and low to where the fog will still actually be below all the tombstones, but yet it's just going to give you that really eerie effect back here. So plenty of green spotlights as well to keep completing the effect. It's a very green coloration back here, which will just look really good with the fog machines, I think. Continuing with the green lighting, I actually have a kind of a fire and ice type light up here, but with this one's actually green and completely cast across the entire front of this ground. Basically where the viewers are going to be standing is where that creates, and it really creates a nice eerie effect when it's dark outside. And then here we got the tombstone with the shovel. This one I've also had issues with because the sensor in front of it, first of all, is also very weak. A lot of these older animatronics did have really bad sensors, unlike Evelyn Leach, who now has those ridiculous sensors. I wish I could just purchase a bunch of those and then replace all my animatronics with those types of sensors because that one works incredible. So this one actually knocked back into the base, so I had to take apart the base and bring the sensor back out for it to work again. But even with that part being fixed, it still doesn't really go off. So I figured out by placing this strobe light in front of it and turning it way low, it actually constantly re-triggers this thing, which is really nice because I've always had issues in the past with this thing going off when I wanted it to. There we got another low-laying fog machine and then another green laser. So basically we're getting entire yard coverage when the lasers are on. It basically starts at about here, and you just see the solid line between the two going all the way across the entire thing. So when the fog is really pumping back here, it's going to look very nice. And then over here we got Molly. I've always had issues with her. If you don't have, just out of box, if you don't have any kind of counterweight, she completely flips over. And then if you have too much counterweight in the front, she'll go backwards the way she's supposed to, but then when she swings up, she does a complete face dive. So I've taken out the counterweights. I actually had a 1 pound dumbbell in there, and it was too much. This year I just went with something simple. I put one small rock here and one small rock here, and then one small rock here. And that triangle bases actually seem to have worked perfectly because she works exactly like she's supposed to now. She goes backwards every single time, pulls herself back up every single time. It's perfect. And that's also the 2017 or 2018 model. I can't remember which one was the first year, but she's the first year one, not the second. And then over here we got the Bride in Black. She is actually, I'm not sure what is triggering her, to be honest, because she's really far from everything, because her sensor also doesn't really work that well, but she constantly just keeps going off and she does not have an always on. So I was really happy about that. This red spotlight here is actually casting on her and creates this giant version of her on almost a projection kind of scale, which at night looks very creepy when it's just this red light with this giant bride in front of it moving around. She completely goes around like this and grows and shrinks. I mean, she actually does quite a bit of movement. And then her eyes also light up red, which really goes well with the red spotlight that's on her. And then this is my only animated tombstone besides the animatronic. But this one here, the eyes, you know, light up, and the candles on the side light up, and you hear like crows in the background, which is obviously perfect for a tombstone. You want to have those crows. But this one is another one that just has a horrible sensor. Even if you wave your hand in front of it, it rarely goes off. But I think just like the tombstone with the shovel, these ones are actually triggered more by light, I've noticed, than by movement. So I have a strobe light back here that's also set on a very slow strobe, and it seems to activate this every single time. And what's cool about it is when it's dark out here, the Beware and the Grim Reaper tend to disappear in between strobes. So all you see is this dark outline, and then when the strobe goes off, not only does it trigger the animatronic, but all of a sudden the Beware and the Grim Reaper become visible, and it's just kind of eerie the way that happened. And then here's some more tombstones. This was my attempt to try to prevent people from going onto that little landing over there. Hopefully it works. But there's the final shot of the graveyard. I really have had these backdrops for well over a decade. I'm surprised I was still able to unravel them and use them again. I think next year I'm definitely going to invest in a lot more scene setters because I really like them. I would love to have this entire thing covered, because seeing the striping completely cover the Carnival has transformed it in a way to where I just want to have that same style effect for the Cementary as well. So I would love to buy enough scene setters to completely cover the back. So we come back into the Carnival. And then for anyone who survived and made it through everything, can finally have their candy. No, I'm just kidding. They can have candy if they don't want to go in as well. I have had people in the past say that they didn't want to take their kids through there, so that's why I used to have it set up to where you had to go through the whole thing to get the candy.
Are you guys doing the haunted house this year?
Yes, we are. Been getting a lot of that, so hopefully I have a big turnout. I did place signs by all the main major roads by my house, so I really hope that I get a lot of people walking by. I've already impressed the entire neighborhood. Even had a few people tell me that I literally inspired them and they want to try to do bigger Halloween displays, which I think is really cool, because that's really all I can ask for when it comes to this. If I can inspire people to want to start doing Halloween displays too, maybe it can revive Halloween a little bit. It is one of those, my favorite holiday, but it is a holiday that I think is, you know, especially in certain areas, but it is kind of dying, and I don't think people really do it as much anymore. So if this just impresses everybody and they love it, and you know it makes them want to do it, then I'm all for it, because I think that's phenomenal. I want to see more and more and more Halloween. But anyway, so this is how everything turned out. This was the daytime tour. Definitely want to see how everything looks at night. I will be uploading another video for the nighttime. This is actually Halloween day today, so just finished everything this morning actually, so that's why I'm just now doing the daytime tour, and there will be a nighttime tour. But that is it for now, and we will see how it goes tonight.